Hi, this is Stu Turgel, your host for the PHOENIX File, a weekly news magazine and community conversation with the people and programs making a positive impact on the quality of life in our community. Coming up next on today's edition of the PHOENIX File, I'll be talking with Sharon and Stewart Levine, a local couple who are devoted to ensuring that all school-age children have the shoes they need. Shoes That Fit. It's a national program with a PHOENIX chapter dedicated to making shoes available to underprivileged children in our community. Shoes for school children who are urgently in need of them is the passionate volunteer work of my guests, Sharon and Stewart Levine. Join me to hear more about their humanitarian work on today's edition of the PHOENIX File, coming up next right here on Radio PHOENIX, where the Valley comes to talk, sing, connect. Well, good evening. I'm Stu Turgel, your host for the PHOENIX File, a weekly news magazine that features the people and programs making a positive difference on the quality of life in the Valley of the Sun. You know, when I was a kid, one of the things I really looked forward to was that late summer shopping trip with my mother. We'd go out to buy some new clothes for school, but one place that I really enjoyed the most was the stop at the shoe store to buy a pair of dress shoes and a new pair of athletic shoes. The smell of the leather and the feel of those new shoes on my feet, which fit perfectly, was a real treat. And while many families experience that back-to-school ritual, the sad reality is that there are just too many kids who depend on hand-me-down clothes and shoes that may not be in the best condition and frequently don't fit right at all. And as difficult as that is, there are too many kids for whom hand-me-downs may not even be possible. Well, my guests tonight on the PHOENIX File are Sharon and Stewart Levine, two hard-working volunteers for a program called Shoes That Fit. It's a nonprofit organization that aims to change lives of children one pair of shoes at a time. Sharon and Stewart, thanks for being here tonight and welcome to the PHOENIX File.
Stu,
Thank you.
My pleasure to have you here. So, what is Shoes That Fit, and when and how did it get started?
Well, as you said, Shoes That Fit is a nonprofit 501c3 organization, but I think I have a different way of going after your question. I wanted you to know how Stuart and I got involved with it. I think that'll have more meaning.
Okay.
We've been giving out shoes and winter clothes and all kinds of basic needs for children in need for over 20 years. We started out in Illinois. We lived in a lovely suburb along the lakefront, but yet we saw children outside our area of where we live come to school, and they didn't have winter coats, they didn't have boots, they didn't have hats, they didn't have mittens, and Stuart and I decided to do something about it. We brought some of these items to the school, and we really needed to do more. We came across an organization called Shoes That Fit. We did some vetting, and we loved what we found. Shoes That Fit started in 1992, and they've always been, as they are now, a 4-star charity on Charity Navigator, which is a charity watchdog, so to speak, or a charity evaluator, and we loved that. We did further vetting, and we found out their philosophy was similar to ours. We believe in grassroots giving, simple giving, such as things like shoes or jackets or mittens, things like that, and their philosophy and their mission is to give shoes to children so they can increase their self-esteem. So no pun intended, but we were a good fit with this organization.
A really good fit, I would say.
So when we moved here to Arizona about 11 years ago, we started a second Shoes That Fit chapter, and we named it Fate Group in memory of our fathers, Frank and Nate. Our fathers weren't wealthy financially or materially, but they were just really nice, hardworking guys. My father-in-law was a milkman and then a mailman. My father owned a store that sold blue jeans and work boots to people in the neighborhood. The store was probably smaller than the ladies' bathroom here at the radio station, but they were just decent, hardworking men. They loved their families, and they gave to others that had less, so they gave whenever they could. So we thought they'd get a kick out of us naming a nonprofit after them. When we moved here, I think we were much like a lot of the tourists and a lot of the people that move here. We thought, we're not sure there's going to be a vehicle for our shoe giving, because we looked at Scottsdale and Phoenix and some of the surrounding areas, and we saw five-star restaurants, beautiful resorts. We saw the Phoenix Zoo, Botanic Gardens. We saw the art galleries. We saw the wonderful spring training venues, and we thought, there's no poverty here. Children here do not need shoes. Well, we were wrong. When we started checking into the schools and the different areas people lived in, we learned a whole lot about the areas. There's some of the most impoverished children in the state of Arizona that live a mile, 2, and 3 miles away from us.
Well, we have a service economy in this area with all of the resorts and the restaurants and the hotels, and that does tend to promote a lot of low-income wage earners and even people who are not employed at all. And so you really are right. There are pockets of poverty that are equal to, and not in a good way, many other urban centers in the country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were astounded by what we found out, and I think we're very careful about who we give shoes to, given that we're grassroots and we're small, but we pick and choose carefully, because a lot of the inner city Phoenix schools, we couldn't give enough shoes to them to fill their need. 99% of the lot of the schools, for example, the Creighton School District, which is a few miles from where we're sitting right now, 99% of these children come from impoverished families. Mm-hmm. Some of their parents actually have jobs, maybe they're minimum wage jobs. Some of them get government assistance, but they still can't make ends meet when you think about paying for rent, for car fare, for clothing, for food. It just doesn't work out for some of these families.
How many communities have Shoes That Fit programs?
Well, there's a number of chapters all over the United States. There's almost 300 chapters, and that's grown since 1992. When we first started with them in 1996, I think there were 100 chapters, and now there's almost 300 chapters in 48 states.
And you're the only one in Arizona.
Well, there's a number of other chapters in Arizona, but they do things a little differently. They may sponsor one school and be responsible for giving shoes to that school yearly. We kind of give to a number of different places. That's how we're structured.
Why shoes? There are lots of needs that the children that you're interested in have. Why shoes?
You know, I'll tell you a story. This happened a number of years ago. We got a phone call from a school nurse, and she said, Sharon, a little boy named Johnny came to school in just socks. Can you and Stuart get him some shoes? And we said, of course. Stuart ran out to the store that evening, got Johnny a pair of shoes, delivered the shoes the next day to the school. Johnny was absolutely thrilled. It was his first pair of shoes that ever fit him, let alone a brand new pair of shoes. But this is Johnny's story, and I think it's a story that's pretty common. Johnny is one of 4 children in a family, but there's only 3 pairs of shoes for children in this family. He was the last one out the door that morning, and he came to school in socks. So when you hear that story, I think that's the why, with shoes.
That is a great response to the question of why shoes. How long have you been involved with Shoes That Fit, and why did you get started?
Well, we were involved probably for about 16 years with Shoes That Fit. As I said before, we started in Illinois, but since we moved here 11 years ago, we started our chapter here. And we got started to fill the need for some of these children that don't have basic needs. We really thought we could do a good job in trying to not only give shoes to children that don't have any, but to kind of raise awareness that poverty is in our own backyard.
Well, I think the level of poverty, as we discussed earlier, is much greater than most people would have any idea about. I want to remind our listeners that support for Radio Phoenix comes in part from Native Health, located at 4041 North Central Avenue, Suite C in Phoenix. Native Health provides primary medical, dental, behavioral health, and WIC services targeted for urban Native Americans. For more information, you can call 602-279-5262 or go online at nativehealthphoenix.org. When you set out to try to meet these needs, I would think the needs would be almost overwhelming. It would. How do you manage that feeling of seeing so much need, and where do you begin? It must be very, very challenging.
Well, Stuart and I have a feeling that, like, even the smallest act of kindness, and in our case, giving one pair of shoes, can make a difference. So we try to give shoes one pair at a time. If we have money or grant money or shoes that we're able to donate, we get them out immediately on children's feet. So we do whatever we can do. We write a lot of grants. We were told when we started writing grants to be prepared to have our hearts broken, and we have. We've had our hearts broken. We've been rejected, but there's so many wonderful, wonderful nonprofits and organizations out there vying for the same funds. But on the other hand, we've gotten such a good response from so many generous people in the community, whether they be grants, whether they be private donations, whether it's children's groups we're working with to try to raise awareness and have shoe raisers. So we just one pair of shoes at a time. That's our philosophy.
So let's talk about how you acquire these shoes, and how do those shoes get in the hands, or should I say the feet, of deserving children?
Well, we acquire the shoes. First of all, I'll tell you about our funding, and I'd love to start out with this story that just, it wasn't the most lucrative donation we ever received, but it certainly was the best. Stuart and I were in Walmart one day shopping, and we had a cartload of shoes. We must have had $1,000 worth of shoes that we were buying. And a lady came up to us, and she was pretty disheveled, and she had her children with her. And she said, "What are you doing with all those shoes?" And Stuart very patiently explained to her that we were giving them to children that don't have any shoes at the Creighton School District. And she said, "My children go to Creighton, and they got shoes last year. They must have been from the two of you." And we said, "Maybe," and we're really glad we could help. She went on to say that this year her family was doing a little bit better, and she got her children shoes all by herself in the beginning of the school year and didn't have to ask the school for help. And we said, "That is fantastic. We're so happy for you." And then she reached into her pocket and gave me a handful of change. It couldn't have been more than 70-something cents in change. And she said, "I want you to use this to help children that aren't as lucky as mine." It was the best donation
That's a great
ever.
story. That's a great story. So do you raise money and then purchase shoes, or do you go out and solicit in-kind gifts of shoes? Stuart?
Basically, we're raising funds. Sharon is an unbelievable writer, and the process for looking for grant money is unbelievable. Very competitive, but she's probably one of the most gifted writers in the country, and we do the best we can with that. And along with that, if you think average price of a pair of shoes for us might be around $15, and we've given out 8,500 pairs of shoes. That's quite a substantial amount of money that we've been able to raise in the 11 years.
So all of the shoes that you acquire and then distribute are purchased?
They are purchased. Well, there are some times that we do get gifts in kind of shoes, but they're all brand new shoes, ranging in a variety of prices from different locations.
Do merchants have sort of odd lots and merchandise that is new and perfectly good, but that they'd be interested in donating in kind?
Usually we'll get really terrific pricing from those organizations, which the quality of the shoes is excellent, and we can put those shoes to really good use.
We have a motto that says sturdy and stylish, not expensive and trendy.
You have all the mottos and the
we certainly
slogans,
do.
one shoe at a time.
So we really try to maximize whatever monies we get. We also, aside from writing grants, we do get gifts in kind. We do work with some children's groups. We work with children or kids that are wanting to do community service projects. Sometimes we'll get retailers to donate to us. We're on a rotating cycle with some of the larger shoe companies. They're inundated with requests, but we get shoes from Nike, New Balance, those kinds of companies every 10 years perhaps. So we get shoes in a lot of different ways. One of the districts we give to is the Paradise Valley Unified School District, and we worked with the parent-teacher organization, and they have a fundraiser every year and a shoe raiser. So we get gift cards to a lot of the discount retailers from this parent-teacher group. We get shoes from them, and it goes right back to their own community. So we're creative. We try to do a lot of different things.
That's great. We're going to take a short break for some messages, and when we come back, more of my conversation with Sharon and Stewart Levine of Shoes That Fit. You're listening to the Phoenix File. I'm Stu Turgel, and this is Radio Phoenix. Welcome back to the Phoenix File. This is Stu Turgel. And my guests tonight on the Phoenix File are Sharon and Stewart Levine of Shoes That Fit. Well, we were talking before the break about how you acquire the shoes, and let's talk about how they get distributed. How is it that all the shoes that you are able to acquire find their way to the right feet?
Well, we try to have a quick turnaround. Certainly if we get any monies or donations, we try to purchase shoes immediately and within 1 week get them to the schools or the agencies that we're giving to, and so they're on the right feet, so to speak. One of the concepts that we learned from that Johnny story that I told was that sometimes the school staff needs shoes immediately, and they can't wait to phone us or to find an agency that will supply shoes or socks for their children. So we came up with the seed from Johnny's story of having shoe closets within the school. So Stuart and I sponsor 2 shoe closets, one in the Paradise Valley Unified School District and one in the Scottsdale School District. So one's at Tonalea Supai, which is Scottsdale, and one's at Echo Mountain. And the idea behind the shoe closet is to have a fully stocked array of shoes. So if a child comes in the school with just socks or flip-flops or barefoot, the school nurse or the administrator or the community representative has a place to go to get that child a pair of shoes. So we've been doing that. We have an interesting story with the shoe closets. I got a phone call from a school nurse, and she said this little girl, May, came to school, again, in just raggy shoes. She was just disheveled. She was a mess, and she didn't have her size in the shoe closet. So that I said I would bring over some shoes for May, and I did. And she was a little girl, and I brought over purple and pink, and she stepped on the shoes, and they were glittery, and she skipped down the hall. She was thrilled with her new shoes. Every day she'd come back to the nurse and show her the new shoes, and she was all excited. One day she didn't come into the nurse's office, and the nurse went looking for her, and she saw May wearing her old raggy shoes, and she said, May, where's your shoes? And May said, my mom sold them. Wow. And we were when I got that phone call, my first instinct was to be annoyed, angry, and we were chatting, and I just knew there had to be more to this than her mom sold them. What mom sells shoes, on their kids' feet? Well, we did do some investigation, and we learned a couple things. First of all, we learned that this mom was struggling financially. She was struggling in raising her children, and she used the $20 or whatever she got for the shoes to buy food for her family. That was the best solution she could come up with. And we learned a lot from May's story. We keep a pair of shoes for May at the school. Of course, we got her a new pair of shoes again, but they're at the school. We do not send shoes home with her because her mom might sell them again. So every morning she goes in the nurse's office, gets her shoes, and every night she deposits her shoes and puts on her flip-flops. The other thing we learned is this mom really needed more support other than financial. She needed more money for food. She needed child care, understanding how to raise her children. So she gets more support. So hopefully May's family will do a little bit better in the future.
What a great story. Well, let's hold a good thought for May and her family so that they can find their way out of the situation that they're in. Do you have any idea how many pairs of shoes you've given out?
Well, as long as you asked. Okay, almost 8,500. As of this morning, it's 8,364 pairs here in Arizona.
That's incredible. So how many schools and how many children are involved with the program?
Hundreds and hundreds of children. It really depends on the school district. We give shoes to Scottsdale Unified, Paradise Valley Unified School District, Creighton School District, Ball School District, Camelview Madison District, and I must mention it's 3 blocks from the Biltmore where we buy $5 scoops of yogurt. Yeah. So there, again, poverty's in our backyard. We give to the Wounded Warriors. We give to Streetlight Foundation. We give to the Natterburg District, which is in central Arizona. We give to a program called Girls on the Run, and we give to Salt River Youth Services.
That's terrific. Do you keep an inventory on hand, or are they given out as soon as the shoes are acquired?
We try to give them out immediately when we get shoes, but over the summer we stockpile shoes because we get some really good buys at some of the retailers. So our guest bedroom has a fabulous shower, and that's kind of where we store shoes. We also have a storage locker that we use on occasion, but we really try to get shoes out immediately when we get them.
Are the shoes given out just at the start of the school year, or is this a year-round activity?
We're year-round. Actually, we try not to give in the beginning of the school year because people are so generous and helpful in the beginning of the school year and at holiday time. So we try to give at off times. We give a lot of shoes in October and November, then again probably in February and March and April, because it's not when generally people think of giving donations.
How are the decisions made about which children will receive the shoes?
I think the school administrators, the school staff, they know those families that are struggling. Sometimes they're unexpected. For example, we give to an organization called Wounded Warriors, and there was a story that we had heard. We helped this family. There was a grandma and a grandpa that were watching their 3 grandchildren because their young daughter was deployed, and the biological father wasn't anywhere to be found, and they were struggling financially. But then life happened, and they ended up watching 2 more grandchildren. So they really struggled financially. So we gave them shoes, of course.
I know that you're very committed to preserving the dignity of the children who receive the shoes, as well you should be. Do the children ever get embarrassed about being given shoes from strangers?
I think they're so thrilled to be getting shoes. Most of them do not have the things that we take for granted. We visited our grandson in Maine, and he has a fabulous bed and toys. He goes to bed with a full belly. I think he has 4 or 5 pairs of shoes. He has shorts and T-shirts. These children don't have any of those things. Most of them don't have a bed. They don't have toys. They don't have books. They don't have pillows. They certainly do not have shoes. So they are thrilled. I think they're more embarrassed to wear shoes that have newspaper stuffed in the toes or shoes where their feet are sticking out. That's more embarrassing for them.
You encourage donations of more than just shoes, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
We love gift cards to discount retailers, Payless, Walmart, Kmart. Target, any of those. That's where
So
we buy
if
shoes.
we have listeners who would like to help you help the children, how do they reach you? How do they make a contribution to help your work?
I was hoping you'd ask. Well, we have a Facebook page. It's called Sharon Levine, and you'll see all kinds of shoes. So there's information on that. And we're going to leave some information with you, Stu, if you'd be kind enough to put it on your page.
I will. I'd be happy to. There is also shoes and other clothing items. Do you also work with other than just shoes, or is it just shoes?
We try to keep it simple here in Arizona, and we give out bags of socks with the shoes. But other than that, no, we do not.
Now, is it just the two of you, or is there an army of people helping you with this work, Stuart?
It's pretty much just the two of us. Depending on a particular situation, if it's a big delivery or if we have to really buy a lot of shoes at one time, some of our friends will help us out. But primarily, it's just the two of us. But I've really got to give a lot of credit really to the brains of the operation is Sharon. I kind of like running around getting the shoes and everything. But when it comes to grant writing, which is a real skill, Sharon's done just an absolutely phenomenal job with that.
I've had a chance to read some of the thank you notes, and I love the fact that you post them from time to time on your Facebook page, and I've also read some of the notes on the Shoes That Fit website, which I guess is a national website, not notes from other communities. And those must be very rewarding to get those kinds of messages. Along with those thank you notes, there are stories that go behind them. Can you share a story or two with us so that we can sort of put a face on who these wonderful youngsters are?
Oh, the notes are from children that never had shoes before. They come to school, their feet hurt because the shoes are too tight, or boys that are wearing pink shoes, or they're wearing their sister's shoes because there were no other shoes in the family. These are the typical kids that get shoes from us. I want to thank Stuart for his kind words, but it's more than the two of us, because actually I'd be remiss if I didn't use this opportunity to thank some of the very, very generous people that have given us grant money. Executive Council Charities, HomeSmart, Sun City West Kiwanis, Arizona Diamondbacks, Samuel Weinstein Foundation, Temple Solel's been wonderful. We have a lot of private donors and individuals. So while Stuart and I do a lot of the footwork, pun intended, all that money and that support really is helpful to us.
That's terrific. Well, you have done amazing work over the years that you've been involved with Shoes That Fit. So a huge tip of the hat to everyone involved with Shoes That Fit for the way in which your grassroots program continue to provide children in need with the shoes that they need so that they can attend school in comfort and with dignity. Sharon and Stewart, thanks so much for sharing the wonderful work of Shoes That Fit with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stu.
My pleasure, and just keep doing good work. Well, that's our show for this week, and I'll be back next Tuesday night when my guest will be Linda Elliott, the executive director of 1 and 10, a program that envisions a world where LGBTQ youth and young adults are embraced for who they are, actively engaged in their communities, and empowered to lead. So until next time, thanks again to my guests Sharon and Stewart Levine of Shoes That Fit for joining me tonight on the Phoenix File, and thank you for listening. For Radio Phoenix, this is Stu Turgel.